Long before the SS Empire Windrush sailed into British history, the real journey began across vast oceans, forced marches, and battles for freedom. A journey of survival, rebellion, and resilience shaped by the African diaspora. When Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, the world changed forever. Africans captured and chained were shipped across the Atlantic to work on sugar, cotton, and tobacco plantations. Figures like Francis Drake and John Hawkins, hailed as explorers, were architects of this brutal system, but resistance was fierce. In Jamaica, the First Maroon War erupted as enslaved Africans escaped and fought for freedom. In Grenada, Fedon's rebellion defied British colonial rule. The Haitian Revolution, led by Toussaint Louverture and Henri Christophe, struck powerful blows against oppression. Haiti became the first free black republic, a beacon of hope for enslaved people everywhere. As slavery gave way to emancipation, waves of laborers from colonial India and China arrived, making islands like Trinidad, St. Lucia, Guyana, and Jamaica vibrant, diverse lands. Across the Atlantic, black presence in Britain wasn't new. Centuries earlier, individuals like John Blanke, a black trumpeter at Henry VIII's court, and Mary Seacole, the Crimean war nurse, had already left their mark. Black Moors lived in Queen Elizabeth I England, while Jacques Francis, a skilled African diver, served as a salvage expert. Their stories, hidden for too long, remind us that the Windrush generation was part of a far older history of migration and legacy. This is the story of a journey, from Africa to the Caribbean, and finally to the UK, a journey filled with truth, courage, and a legacy that reshaped Britain forever. World War I marked a turning point for the British Empire, drawing millions from across the colonies into its war effort. African and Caribbean men answered the call, serving in the military and working as laborers in Britain's docks and factories. Many arrived in ports like East London, Liverpool, Bristol, and Cardiff's Tiger Bay, building small but vibrant communities. Among them was Walter Tull, one of Britain's first black professional footballers, who became a trailblazer in the army as the first black officer to lead troops into battle. Yet despite their sacrifices for king and empire, these communities faced hostility rather than gratitude. In 1919, race riots erupted as white veterans, fearing competition for scarce jobs and housing, turned on their black neighbors in brutal attacks. Britain rejected calls for equality at the Treaty of Versailles, reaffirming a world built on racial hierarchies. The seeds of inequality and exclusion were sown early, setting the stage for future struggles that would define generations to come. And within the period of just a few decades, World War II brought the world to the brink of destruction again, as Nazi Germany, under Hitler's reign, unleashed terror across Europe. The Battle of Britain raged in the skies, and as bombs fell on London, the British Empire once again turned to its colonies. Caribbean, Asian, and West African men were recruited by Britain, the USA, and France to fight for freedom and democracy. Among the brave were Ulrich Cross, a decorated Trinidadian RAF navigator, and Billy Strachan, who became a key leader in the British Air Force. After the war, the black population in Britain grew, with many veterans choosing to settle in the land they had defended. Yet, despite 2 wars fought under the Union Jack, discrimination persisted. Larry Constantine, a celebrated cricketer and diplomat, was famously denied a hotel room in London because of his skin color, an incident that exposed the harsh realities of racism. The promises of liberty and equality remained distant dreams, even for those who had risked everything for the nation. After the devastation of the Battle of Britain, the United Kingdom faced a long and difficult road to economic recovery. Cities lay in rubble, industries were crippled, and the demand for labor was greater than ever. The British government turned to the Commonwealth for help, and the islands of the West Indies answered the call. When the HMT Empire Windrush arrived at Tilbury Docks carrying nearly men and women from Jamaica, Trinidad, and other Caribbean nations, eager to contribute to the rebuilding of Britain. Over the next 2 decades, the flow of migration increased, and by the 1960s, the black population in Britain had grown significantly, reaching an estimated 250,000.
That's they didn't want blacks all over the country. What happened was they needed blacks all over the country, but the white suburb areas had small pockets of white people. So when they sent blacks up there, they had to make it so that the blacks live together. So and that's how they were building a lot then. After the war, it's all building. So they're just building the state and put all the black people in there. And then they would work in the amenities, hospitals, porters' jobs, driving jobs, engineering jobs, while all the white people had office jobs. So they worked for the council and so forth and so forth.
These new Britons brought with them rich cultural traditions, vibrant music, and a strong work ethic. Britain's cities buzzed with growth and renewal, and behind the scaffolds, tracks, and hospital doors, the hands of Caribbean builders, carpenters, transport workers, and nurses shaped the nation's future. Skilled tradesmen laid bricks and built homes, transforming skylines and neighborhoods. Bus drivers and railway workers kept cities moving, connecting communities and powering industry. Nurses brought warmth and care to hospitals, tending to patients with skill and compassion in the newly formed National Health Service. The children of the Windrush generation grew up British, but were often made to feel like outsiders in their own land. In school, they faced racism from teachers and classmates, with lowered expectations and systemic bias limiting their opportunities.
Down school was a proper mess.
What kind of punishments did the teachers give you? Did you get the cane or the slipper?
Cane, Mr. Russell used to cane us. The worst out of all of them, because he actually beat up me and my friend in class. So what happened, because my dad had passed, so I had to go and get my mum.
Finding work was a constant struggle, as employers discriminated against black job seekers. Making friends outside their own communities came with barriers of prejudice.
There was a lot of racism around. So the kids in school would always do things like, oh, you're a monkey, and stuff like that, but you just kind of took it on your back because you never hung out with them. You didn't get angry about it because they're idiots. And you didn't really, it was normal. That was the norm thing to happen. You know, you got racists in the school, you got racists out the school, and I imagine, even though my mum and dad kept it from me, they got a lot of racism. So, you know, at the house at the weekend.
Tensions with police were ever present, fueled by the notorious sus law, which allowed officers to stop and search individuals based solely on suspicion, a practice disproportionately targeting young black men.
Between the ages of 13 and 16, minimum was twice a day. Minimum. But that's how it was for everybody. That's it. The worst thing that can happen to you is they find someone. Because the first thing they do is they say to you, stand over there, they get out of the car, they give you 20 questions about you.
In 1958, violence erupted in Notting Hill as white mobs attacked black residents, sparking a series of race riots. The unrest continued into the following decades, with the St. Paul's riot in Bristol in 1980, a response to police harassment. Tragedy struck in 1981 with the New Crossfire, which claimed 13 young black lives under suspicious circumstances, galvanizing a community in mourning and anger.
It was hard for black kids when I was growing up. But you know the riot, you see, don't forget the riot. Yeah, Brixton, yeah, that's what it was. Then it came over here, didn't it? Well, I can't, you know.
Yeah.
Or the one up in Tottenham.
Broadwater Farm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Broadwater Farm.
we had Broadwater Farm. I was around with the Broadwater Farm one, the Brixton one. That kind of kicked off a load of other riots all around the areas.
The people were protesting, but me and my brother, we were young then, 15, 16, we were young. So we didn't really know the significance of it. Even though we were chased by police and my mate got hit with the truncheon about 8 times and his whole arm swelled up. We saw it.
The Scarman Report, commissioned after further unrest in Brixton, acknowledged the racial inequalities at the heart of these conflicts, but real change remained elusive, and the fight for justice endured. The tragic murder of Stephen Lawrence in 1993 exposed deep racial biases within British policing, as officers failed to bring his killers to justice until public outcry and a landmark inquiry revealed institutional racism. In 2011, the police shooting of Mark Duggan, a black man in Tottenham, sparked widespread protests and riots, fueled by anger over unequal treatment. These cases highlight stark differences in how victims and suspects from black communities are treated by police and the justice system.
Making people for sus.
Explain how the sus law works.
Well, you just have to be black and walking down the road and they're not going to nick you.
With disproportionate stop and search practices, harsher policing, and systemic barriers to accountability, each injustice underscores the urgent need for fairness and reform in the pursuit of true equality. In recent years, the Windrush generation faced a profound betrayal by the very nation they helped build. Thousands who had lived in the UK for decades were suddenly deemed illegal due to a lack of formal documentation, a direct consequence of policies tied to the Immigration and Asylum Act and a hostile environment approach pushed under Theresa May's leadership as Home Secretary. Commonwealth migrants, many of whom arrived legally, were wrongfully detained, denied health care and benefits, or deported to countries they had not seen since childhood. Public outrage grew as cases emerged, and in 2018, Jeremy Corbyn called for justice in Parliament. The scandal led to the resignation of Home Secretary Amber Rudd, and her successor, Sajid Javid, promised new measures to prevent future injustices. The Human Rights Committee condemned the systemic failures, labeling it a stain on Britain's history. Though reforms have been pledged, trust remains broken, and the Windrush Scandal serves as a stark reminder of the fragile nature of citizenship and the enduring struggle for fairness.
Every person growing up must find out who you are and where you're going in life, you know. And for me, the Bible says something. It says this. It says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning. And to know that wherever you are right now, it's not the end, you know, and every day is a new beginning. And you have a choice on how you end that day and how you end whatever situation.
The story of the Windrush generation and their descendants is one of resilience, strength, and remarkable contributions. From the early Blackmores of Queen Elizabeth I's court to trailblazing athletes like Walter Tull, cultural icons like Idris Elba, and political leaders shaping the future, Black Britons have overcome adversity to leave an indelible mark on the nation. Their presence enriched Britain's culture, powered its economy, and redefined its identity. The Windrush Scandal is a chapter that should never be forgotten, but it does not overshadow the legacy of courage and achievement. The journey from Africa to the Caribbean to Britain is a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring fight for justice and equality. With that said, thanks for watching another Fresh K documentary. Please like, subscribe, comment below, and until next time.